If I keep eye contact with you, does it look like I'm looking at the camera? Hello, my name is Gerry.
I'd love you to start off with giving a sense of how you are today.
I'm actually good today. I'm good today like most days because I've got up, I've made a plan for today. Got my feet on the floor today and got out of bed. I have this sense of life. You know, I'm kind of loving life. I'm loving my family. I'm loving people around me. You know, it's not a kind of, it's just an experience that I've never experienced before.
How long has this been your reality?
Since I suppose stopped drinking. You know, I've been having a great life because there's no trouble at home anymore. You know, they always say drink trouble. So there's no trouble at home. My family are good. They're able to live their own lives because I'm doing the right thing that I should have been doing from the start. But unfortunately, I have a drink problem. I'm an alcoholic, and I didn't know that. I drank because I was spending so much time running away from myself. I left it a bit late in life, but I eventually stopped running, and I eventually got sick. I eventually landed back up in a high dependency unit from wanting to kill myself because the old thinking came back that I was no good. I had low self-esteem. When you're told that all through your childhood, you tend to believe it until, you know, because I was always looking for that approval. You know, it took me a lot of years to realise that I was never going to get that approval because even in adult years, the same people didn't have the same faith in you. A lot of things through my childhood I did on my own. I had to push myself through things, you know. I joined judo and I went to competitions on my own. I graded with the belts on my own. Despite everything that was done and said, I kind of, in my own way, raised myself above it. And I pushed myself for me, you know, even though I was lost, I was, you know, I was used to not having people around. It took me a long time, even up to getting counselling the last few years. I had abandonment issues, afraid to get too close to people because when you get too close, all of a sudden they're gone. And I didn't like that. I had that even growing up. I learned, you know, to be independent and, you know, you'd be okay. But I got married, probably the first time I fell in love. The minute I saw her, I fell in love. I mean it. She walked in I was a barman and she was a lounge girl, and she walked into the children rooms the night that she started working, and I looked and I went, oh my God. And I asked her out, and I didn't have experience with women because I didn't, you know, I was kind of that kind of funny child. But when I seen Bernie, like, yeah, I fell in love with her, and you know, that was in 1979. I keep telling her, ask her what date, and she doesn't know. It's the 26th of February. We've been together ever since, and that was the first time that I was able to tell anybody that I was sexually abused, and it was the first time that I was able to tell anybody about my home life, and it was the first time that I fell in love. It was a good sense of relief. There was times when I wasn't feeling great or anything like that, and Bernie was the one there picking me up off the floor. You know, the one that was telling me that, you know, she fell in love with someone that was good, and everything that I was told, she was telling me the opposite. When you're being told something all your life and then someone else comes in and you fall in love for the first time and you have all these, you know, you have all these feelings and you're thinking, Jesus, this is great, and you know, you can't eat, you can't sleep, and you know, I asked her would we get engaged, and she says, yeah. I remember I fell over a gate. I got up and I just started laughing. I didn't feel anything, you know, I just was on a cloud. And I've never had that in my life, you know, I've never had love in my life. I've never had anybody holding me tight, putting their arms around me, telling me that I was okay, I was a nice person. It was completely different. The impact for me was absolutely huge. You know, it was for starters, it was hard to believe, you know. There was a lot of times Bernie had to reassure me how much of a good person I was because I couldn't see it. Because I'd been told I wasn't, you know, I was no good. As I went on with Bernie, we spent 38 years talking. We sit in the kitchen and we leave the radio on and we chat. We were kind of grown together, you know, and she had her family stuff too, so we were able to mix and match each other's stories kind of thing, and we found we were great support for each other, And, you know, I suppose there's a love that you couldn't break. We were 13 years married before we had our first child. We moved to England and they told us, look, they're more advanced over there. We went off on our own, and after being told we couldn't have kids, and Bernie cried, and I said, don't worry, we'll get a dog. We done everything over there and we spent a fortune. Nothing happened. And then she got pregnant. You know, over there, we were buying a house over there, and I rang everybody in Dublin. And they were all, honest to God, they were thrilled because everybody wanted us to have a child. So I rang them, and then I rang the following week and said, Bernie had a miscarriage. I know, another downer, you know. But from being told you can't have a child to getting nearly there, we ended up having a Shane. It was just, oh my God. Oh, I cried. I don't cry much, but I cried. Then Amy, and then Ciara, and then Michael, and, you know, and I tell you, they're loved and wanted, and every child is special, of course they are. For us, waiting 14 years, it's kind of that extra little bit special, you know. And I wanted to be the opposite of the father that I grew up with, you know. And it's amazing, through drink, I nearly ended up being the same man. You know, Bernie did get it in her house. She knows what it's like to have love, and, you know, there was great encouragement and the whole lot, you know. And what she had learned, she taught me. So I was the best father I could be until I had a drink. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde. But I tried my best, you know, I tried my best. And it did take a while before I realised that I was nearly going down the same road as the man that brought me up. There was times I was delighted with myself, and then there was other times then where that little thing would sneak back in and tell me, you know what, you're no good at all. That battle went on with me for a long time, you know, and I did to a point that I did have a few suicide attempts, you know, and don't talk about suicide. In me heart and soul, I always felt myself a failure. I didn't see what other people saw in me. I didn't even see what the kids saw in me. I was thinking, you know, I'm useless. Obviously I'm not. There was no one there telling me that if you have that drink, this is going to happen. And it got to the stage, the last time I had a drink, it got to the stage where, you know what, they'd be better off without me. And suicide, I tried for the last time. I nearly got there. Bernie had to pretend to the kids that I had a heart attack. They know now, you know, but at the time, that's how bad it was. I was struggling. This battle was getting worse with me, even sober. But it's amazing the way things happen in life, because they were going to let me out of the hospital. But Bernie knew if I went home that day, I was back on the drink. And she told him to keep me. And I was thinking, oh God, this is serious. And they put me downstairs in the mental health ward. And I didn't have a problem, like, at the time I didn't, because it was the best decision I made, according to me. It wasn't the best decision, of course it wasn't. On the Tuesday, my brother and my wife brought me into the rehab where you stayed for 6 weeks. And it's amazing, you know, because that was none of my planning. Nothing got to do with me. I had no idea what was ahead of me in life. From that moment on, my life had changed. One of the biggest things I had to do was admit I was an alcoholic. And 2 weeks into rehab, and I admit I was an alcoholic, you know. And then my plan was to go into the fellowship of AA, which I did. And I never haven't looked back since 9 years later. You know, if you don't make mistakes, you're not learning. And no one's life is perfect. You know, we're human beings after all. Like, I'll say it's okay not to be okay as well. It's given me the courage to stop running from me, to get the counselling that I needed. One thing that I did have all through my life was a resentment against my father. One day, I hadn't seen him in quite a couple of years. Sometimes family can be our worst nightmare, you know, and it was for me, so I made that decision. And I got a phone call one day, and it was from my sister-in-law, and she says, your dad is walking along the dual carriageway. And without thinking, I just jumped in the car and I flew over to him. And I pulled up outside the house, and he actually ran down the garden to me. And the two of us stood outside, and I held his hands. He was freezing. And the two of us just stood there without talking, looking at one another. And then I said to him, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I was driving with my brothers, and he was kind of half turned in to see, staring at me. And he was like, I was at picking someone up from a creche, like, you know, and he looked at me and he says, I never did that on you. I just looked back at him and I went, I know. And I left it at that. I wanted to be able to make an amends with him, but I didn't need to make him suffer. And what I did, it was like a nugget in my heart. It was like something that I have there, and I still have it there. The man passed away only a while ago. I made that amends that day, and I didn't need to make him feel small or anyway at all. My God, it was like part of me was just being guided to do certain things, and I felt great because I dropped him with my brothers and he got out of the car and the two of us gave each other the biggest hug ever. He told me he loved me and I told him I loved him, you know, and you couldn't buy that. It was kind of, I felt at that stage that there's another piece of me kind of mended. I have a support system around me that I never had before. Through the rap program that I do, I have been sick probably at least 5 or 6 times head-wise, and I'm realising, you know, I can't do this on my own. I need help. So I swallowed my pride and thinking, you know what, I need help, can you help me? And it's amazing the people that will come forward and help you when you ask for the help. It's a big help because I'm not afraid of being sick now anymore. And I'm not even going to say it's a pity I didn't do this when I was 20. My time was when my time was. You know, that sort of way. I had to get to 50 and I had a lot of life learning and life lessons and everything like that, you know. But I got through the whole lot, you know, having done the right thing through counselling. I found me, the person that Bernie wanted to, that married in the first place. You know, the only person that's seen something in me, that niceness, that goodness, that generosity, that kind and caring person that I am, that I had lost. You know, I'd lost the ability, I even lost the will to live.
What do you love most about that person that you are now?
How I'm able to devote my time now to others. I'm not afraid to talk about my experiences in life if it can help somebody else, and just to be there for them. I don't need to do everything. If someone wants to sit down and have a cup of tea, I'll sit with you. It doesn't have to be like major. It's the little things that people need in life again, you know, and that's what I like doing. I like just being there. If someone needs their hand held, I'd hold their hand, or if they need just a hug, I'd hug them. You know, I just love being able to be available, you know, and I love looking at me sons and my daughters as they go on with their careers now, and I can kind of sit back and thinking, you know, it wasn't all that bad.
So what's your why?
What's my why? What's my why? I know what my why is. I'm very involved with mental health, really am. And I'm involved with it for the simple reason that I've been there and had the t-shirt, you know, and I've walked in the shoes of others, and there's people coming behind me who's going to walk in their shoes, and I want them to know that everything is going to be all right and there'll be someone there for them. That's what's my why, is to not to help the world, but just to reach out and just to help that one person, and that one person go and help one person. And if we do that, if we each did that and just took one person at a time, you know, things wouldn't be half as bad.